6 p.m. in Otele, that is in the Mefu and Akono Division, Central Region of Cameroon. Same time right here in Akwa Douala. Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. Thank you so much for joining me on this edition of the 6 p.m. primetime newscast on Equinoxe television. First, our major stories. Several flood victims in the far north region of Cameroon say they are yet to receive aid from the government weeks after heavy floods hit several neighborhoods. The few victims who have benefited from government's aid say they are disappointed over what they qualify as insufficient relief package. It should be noted that the victims lost their houses, farmlands, foodstuffs, and other valuable items. We'll be getting details in the course of this newscast. Also, we talk religion as a moderator of the Presbyterian Church in Cameroon. Right Reverend Funky Samuel is being accused of trying to thwart the constitution of the Presbyterian Church in Cameroon. In a letter written by the moderator emeritus, Reverend Dr. Festus Asana, he claims that the Presbyterian Church is being run like a family business while highlighting what it qualifies as a dictatorial regime at the helm of the Presbyterian Church in Cameroon. These allegations come on the heels of elections of the new moderator and synod clerk. Also, we'll tell you something else as a projection of an 80-minute film on President Paul Biya's legacy at the Moliko Sports Stadium will leave some viewers in a state of confusion. A renowned historian, Professor Victor Julius Ngo, voices out his dissatisfaction over what he qualifies as distorted facts on the history of Cameroon. Our special guest tonight is Professor Julius Ngo, who is currently on standby in Boya. Those are major stories. Stay with us for details and more. Thank you, ladies and gentlemen, for choosing to get yourself informed on Equinoxe television. For presentation, I am Immaculate Fogwe. Over 100 people without identity cards have been arrested in Lowe, Manjo subdivision in the Littoral region. The arrest came during a raid organized by elements of the Gendarmerie Legend office in the Littoral region. Then over the weekend, the operation is also saw the seizure of 14 cartons of illicit drugs and 56 commercial motorcycles without documents. We have details with Smart Jikan Gabriel. We'll be coming to that report in our subsequent news edition, or maybe at the end of this news edition. And now to something else. Many victims of the heavy flooding in the far north region of Cameroon are still expecting aid from the government. Some are concerned about the fact that the government aid is far below expectation and will not meet their actual needs. We have details with Babila Jonathan.
Nous avons remis la liste à Kaigama au nombre de 100 personnes.
His name was on the list of flood victims in his locality, but when government aid came, he was not among the recipients. Like him, many are still in expectation across the Mayudanai division in the far north region of Cameroon. In Girvidik, 103 victims were not registered among the beneficiaries, though the quarter head had submitted a list for onward transmission to the competent authorities before the arrival of Territorial Administration Minister Atanganji Paul. Those who have received the government aid are grateful but not satisfied. According to him, the aid from President Paul Biya will sustain them only for a week because they lost everything in the flood. Their houses, foodstuffs, animals, farmlands, and personal belongings were all swept away. Others are disappointed with the government relief package, which they qualify as grossly insufficient. He has 2 wives and 13 children. Together with his grandchildren, there are 50 in total in his family, and they have received 2 mattresses, 2 bed sheets, a bucket, soap, vegetable oil, and a 25-kilogram bag of rice. Others are demanding sustainable solutions, like the construction of low-cost houses for the victims. Far North Governor Mijiao Bakari narrates the story of a woman and her 2-month-old baby caught in the natural disaster by a wall that collapsed on them, and a pot in which she was warming water to bathe the baby fell on her, and she suffered severe burns in Girvidik. We are told she is responding to treatment in a health facility in the Maga subdivision.
Babila Jonathan reporting there. The administrative crisis rocking the Presbyterian Church in Cameroon seemed far from being over. In a recent letter circulating on social networks, the emeritus moderator of the PCC, Reverend Dr. Festus Asana, outlined some administrative lapses within the reign of the outgoing moderator, Reverend Funky Samuel Foba, such as favoritism and a non-respect of the church's constitution. Anabila explains to us the content of that letter.
Emeritus moderator, the Right Reverend Festus Asana, in a strong-worded letter to the present and same-time outgoing moderator of the Presbyterian Church in Cameroon, outlines several stumbling blocks to the smooth functioning of the church. Reverend Festus Asana, the moderator emeritus, in his missive, calls on the Right Reverend Funky Samuel Foba, the current moderator of the PCC, to stop handling the church like a family business. Favoritism, corruption and other issues, according to him, have tarnished the image and distorted the functioning of the PCC for some years now. The Reverend Asana mentioned that he had a conversation with the Reverend Funky at the start of his mandate on how the latter can emerge successful during his mandate as the PCC moderator. Council, which according to him, the current PCC gave a somewhat deaf ear to. The Presbyterian Church in Cameroon has strayed away from the church's constitution, with nomination processes not respected. Reverend Asana cautioned that the moderator, who is supposed to be a pastor of pastors, must be a unifier and not a source of division in the church. Adding that it is, however, not late for the Reverend Funky Samuel to put some order in the house of God as election of the new moderator and synod clerk approaches. The emeritus moderator called on Christians of all congregations of the Presbyterian Church in Cameroon not to vote against their consciences, as God's finger is warning. Equinoxe got to the moderator of the PCC, Right Reverend Funky Samuel Foba, on phone, and the moderator said the church is not rude on social media. He is still to receive the hard copy of this letter, which has been circulating on social media on the poor handling of issues concerning the Presbyterian Church in Cameroon.
And now back to the story. Over hundreds of people without identity cards have been arrested in Lowe, that is in Manju subdivision, Lithra region of Cameroon. The arrest comes during a raid organized by elements of the Gendarmerie Legion office in the Lithra region over the weekend. The operation also saw the seizure of 14 cartons of illicit drugs and 56 commercial motorcycles without documents. We have details with Smarty and Gabriel.
It came as a surprise to the inhabitants of Lowe in Manju subdivision of the Mongo division as they woke up over the weekend in the presence of heavy security elements from the gendarmerie scattered all over the village. It was a raid that came as a result of many complaints. We have had many complaints about attacks, illicit trafficking and assassination. It's a very harsh zone. It has a huge population of internally displaced persons and also shares boundary with the southwest region, where the military has been struggling to restore peace, and most come over here to hide. As a result of the raid, several items alongside individuals were picked up. We arrested 235 persons. Amongst them, 21 didn't have identification documents. The brigade commander will do further questioning to see how they would be freed. We also seized 14 cartons of illicit drugs, and also we seized 56 commercial motorcycles without documents. The inhabitants of Lowe say the step taken by the elements of the gendarmerie was laudable. I'm so happy with the step taken by the security forces, because this will secure us. In the farm, all that we plant before we arrive have been harvested. I'm glad with this action. Before ending their operations in Lowe, the head of the raid left this message. I know there are notables here. The gendarmerie didn't come to spoil any relationship with you, but they came to provide you with security and serenity. The doors of the gendarmerie brigade are opened for you to come report any suspects free. The raid, which was carried out by the elements of the gendarmerie, wasn't a strange thing. As they say, it's a way to surprise the men of the underworld.
Smart Chikangiril reporting there. Former Prime Minister of Cameroon, Philemon Yang, has enjoined world nations to form a single force and move forward to suppress conflicts, protect mankind and planet Earth. The president of the 79 UN General Assembly said this while chairing a two-day summit that opened on Sunday. We have details with Innocent Aze.
The attendees, including more than 130 presidents, prime ministers and delegates, were challenged to work together not only on front-burner issues but on modernizing the international institutions born after World War II so they can tackle the threats and problems of the future.
We have the power to make important choices for the future. We stand at crossroads of global transformation, facing unprecedented challenges that demand urgent collective action. From conflict and climate change to the digital divide, from inequalities to threats against human rights, together we all face profound challenges. Yet, alongside these challenges, there is hope.
The General Assembly approved the summit's main outcome document, a 42-page pact of the future, with a bang of the gavel by Assembly President Philemon Yang, signifying consensus.
The Pact for the Future just adopted represents our pledge not only to address immediate crisis, but lay the foundations for a sustainable, just, and peaceful global order for all peoples and nations. The commitments embodied in the Pact and its annexes reflect the collective will of member states and must guide our actions and encourage us to promote international peace and security, invigorate implementation of the Sustainable Development Goals, foster just and inclusive societies, and ensure that technologies always serve the common good of humankind.
It will also allow for the world to move forward together in solidarity and cooperation in a bid to shape the future to protect mankind and planet Earth. As a team, its weight would cross global challenges.
Our mission is to eradicate poverty in all its forms, tackle inequalities and promote peace and security, tolerance and respect for diversity. The summit offers a historic opportunity to ensure that progress is shared equitably across all nations and communities elsewhere.
Philemon Yang reminded that progress can only be achieved when all voices are heard and all nations, regardless of size and wealth, have a seat at the table.
And Philemon Yang, in the course of the General Assembly, also stressed that women and young people have a significant role to play in shaping the future of the world. He says their contributions should be embraced. Let's take a listen to him in this excerpt.
Throughout, we must recognize that none of our goals will be achieved without the full participation of women and girls. Advancing gender equality across all sectors of society will be of decisive significance. Equally, we must acknowledge the vital role of young people in shaping our future, ensuring their voices are heard, their rights protected, and their potential realized. Our youth are the torchbearers of tomorrow. This is especially true in Africa, where more young people will enter the workforce each year than in the rest of the world combined. Together, let us rise to this moment with courage and determination as we accelerate our journey towards a brighter future for everyone, everywhere. I thank you.
Philemon Yang, President of the 79 UN General Assembly, speaking there. Away from that, the fight against poor waste disposal continues in Cameroon. A group of civil society actors have engaged campaigns aimed at sensitizing the population on the importance of keeping the environment clean. The association, on the occasion of World Cleanup Day, visited neighborhoods in the city of Douala, where, together with the population, carried out a cleanup exercise. Asa Lucilengu was present and now tells us more.
Poor waste disposal in Douala, like elsewhere in Cameroon, remains a worry to inhabitants and local authorities. Several neighborhoods and markets are filled with heaps of garbage, posing a threat to health. However, to promote environmental cleaning and sustainability, the association Cleanup was founded by a group of civil society actors who thought it wise to come together and clean the environment.
Déjà, il faut dire que nous sommes partis déjà d'un constat.
We carried out findings in the city of Douala.
we realized that several parts are filled with rubbish. We decided to denounce this. Community members continue to engage in activities such as waste management, recycling in order to ensure a tidy environment. In order to take concrete action, during weekends we decided to clean and sensitize the people, but we continue to encounter challenges like limited finance because we do not receive support from the government. As a result, it is difficult for us to realize our projects. On the occasion of the World Cleanup Day, observed on the 20th of September, inhabitants of the Douala 5 subdivision put their hand on the deck in order to give the area a new facelift. Cleaning in general involves women, so I felt concerned, and this year I decided to give in my time and support for this move. Though little efforts are being implemented, waste management in Cameroon continue to face a series of challenges such as inadequate infrastructure for waste disposal and limited resources.
And now we talk economy. Indian and Cameroonian businessmen and women are walking a fine line to boost trade between their two nations. It is the subject of their meeting in Cameroon's economic capital city, Douala, on Monday. Babila Jonathan tells us more.
Findings of the National Institute of Statistics show that Cameroon's trade deficit with India worsened significantly in 2023, reaching 291.4 billion francs CFA. It is for this reason that business persons from both countries converged on the Chamber of Commerce in Douala on Monday to find ways to boost bilateral trade.
I think there are a lot of complementarities. The products we need, services we need in India are available with the Cameroonians, and the services and products and solutions that the Cameroonian needs are somewhat available in India. So it's for the business people to take advantage of what can be done together. We have brought the delegation. I think my job as High Commissioner is to put the two sides together, make them work together. You know, delegations should go from here also, delegations should come from India also. And together they would find what they can do ultimately at the end of the day.
The outcome of their reflections is expected to trigger economic benefits for both nations and their citizens in all sectors of national life. The president of the industry section and personal representative of the chief executive of the Chamber of Commerce of Cameroon at the occasion, Tala Kwati, emphasized a win-win partnership.
No, we have put everything on the table. It belongs to the Indians to bring the solution of what you have together to say. We are going to dialogue such as to, at the end of the day, have the balanced solution of what you are asking and what they are bringing.
A couple of Indian companies are doing business in Douala and Cameroon, and always there is a lot more to bring on the table. You know, any country having a good, healthy competition makes the life better for the country.
India remained Cameroon's third largest trading partner in 2023, holding 9.6% of the market share.
Now to health. World Alzheimer's Day was recently celebrated in Cameroon. Health experts during the celebration sensitized the population on the condition while educating them on the importance of limiting the stigma associated with the disease. Our newsroom took key interest in a 81-year-old woman who for more than a decade has been battling with the disease. Our reporter AC Lucy Lengu was recently at the village neighborhood, and now she tells us how this woman behaves in the society.
81-year-old Therese, who resides with her daughter and family in village in the Douala 3 subdivision from 2016, has been suffering from Alzheimer's. The disease, according to her daughter, began with a subtle change in memory and cognitive function.
At the beginning, my mother, when she comes to stay, we know that she's staying with us. But on day to day, you notice that she's picking all her belongings and saying she's going back to her home. And when you ask why, she will say, I want to go to my farm. this is not my place.
Worried about her strange behavior and change in character, family members of Therese visited the hospital. There, she was diagnosed of the pathology.
But once we consulted Dr. Jeanette, who is a specialist, and she diagnosed exactly what she was suffering from, we started applying her guidelines.
Taking care of Alzheimer patients can sometimes be frustrating, exhausting, especially as the patient's need increases over time.
We give her much love. We give her her place. She knows she's the one who commands. If you tell her no when she's in the way to say yes, that's where you have destroyed everything. So you should always be with her, even when you are not with her.
People from the age of 65 suffering from this condition are most times regarded as witches or wizards. As a result, they are being stigmatized in the society.
For those people who usually see these old people on the street and tell them avion de nuit, while she is sick, she's having Alzheimer. Those people need love. We should show them love. We should show them that we are with them.
Each year, on the 21st of September, Cameroon joins the world to recognize World Alzheimer Day with objective to raise awareness and encourage early diagnosis. This year, Alzheimer Day is observed under the theme, "It is never too early, never too late."
It's done by AC Lucilengu, ends this first part of the news. Talking Point is up next. My guest tonight is a historian. He's known as Professor Julius Ngo, Professor Victor Julius Ngo, and he's based in Buea. Good evening, Professor. It's a pleasure to have you on Talking Point tonight. A film showcasing President Paul Biya's major achievements since his ascension to power was projected over the weekend at the Moliko Municipal Stadium. What prompted you to watch that film? We are currently live in Buea with Professor Julius Ngo. He's a historian, and he was one of those who watched the film that projected or showcasing President Paul Biya's major achievements since his ascension to power. We'd like to know from you, Professor, what prompted you to watch that film?
Well, thank you for having me. I should kind of say that I was very curious to attend it. Firstly, because of my discipline. Secondly, because of this information that is coming now as far as the history of Cameroon is concerned. So I went there knowing fully well that it is a documentary film on the President of the Republic of Cameroon, His Excellency Paul Biya. And he was supervised by the civil cabinet presidency of the Republic. Therefore, my first surprise was that they had a CPDM collaboration. If it were supervised and done by the Secretary General of the CPDM Secretariat, it would have been a different issue. I would not have had any problem with that, because it was very clear the documentary was on the President of the Republic of Cameroon and not on the chairperson of this CPDM. So that was my immediate discomfort. And as the film went on, I discovered a lot of misrepresentation, a lot of distortion.
Now, Professor, reacting shortly after having watched that documentary film on President Paul Biya's legacy, you said you left the venue way before the film ended because it was short of your expectations. Can you tell us what exactly prompted you to leave?
The history, especially the decolonization of Cameroon, that is former French Cameroon and former British Cameroon, is interesting, very, very interesting, but at the same time complex. So I was really embarrassed when it was said that part of West Cameroon achieved independence in October 1961 by reuniting with the Republic of Cameroon. And this is the problem some of us have been having with Cameroon history. How could they have said that part of West Cameroon achieved independence? So what of the other part? So that should just tell you that it is wrong. And Cameroonians who don't even know will believe that it is true. And that is a serious point as far as I'm concerned when they work. The second point of my discomfort was the lack of substance as far as the narration, the documentary was concerned. I give you one example. You cannot talk of the reintroduction of multi-party politics in Cameroon in 1990 without mentioning the SDF, the Social Democratic Front. Without mentioning, I'm not saying discussing the immense role that the SDF played, because in that documentary, on the section of the reintroduction of multi-party politics, the SDF was never mentioned, was not mentioned, and it is unfair and wrong. The other part that surprised me was the nonchalant manner in which the problems in the Northwest and Southwest, the conflict in the Northwest and Southwest regions were mentioned. You just said and teachers protested. One would have expected them to at least mention why did they protest, because you will agree with me that the law and lawyers and the Anglophone teachers, they did not just get November 2016 and protested. So at least some background would have helped.
Now, in the documentary that was projected, the head of state is described as the main architect of development in Cameroon. Seeing what is happening on the ground, were you really convinced about that?
Well, if you say the main architect, I always like to emphasize that people come and go, politicians come and go, statesmen come and go, but institutions remain. So I would, in my general appraisal, I'm in favor of strong institutions. And if you say somebody is the main architect, you have to understand that he is supposed to be the leader, which means that he has experts working with him around him. He can take the advice and determine which policy to push forward. Being the main architect also means that in case of failure, he should be held solely responsible. I do understand that, for instance, an American president once said the buck stops here, which is true. But there's always the need to work as a team, so that the successes and failures are accepted as a team. But when we tend to insist as the leader being the main architect, then there's something wrong somewhere.
In the same film, President Paul Biya is qualified as a promoter of peace. Seeing what is happening in the conflict Northwest and Southwest regions at the moment, people are still being killed with enormous material damage incurred. Is peace a reality in Cameroon?
Well, a unifying figure, we have to take the story from 1982 to 2024. And I must say that when he took over, from Mamadou Ahijo, and then had the presidential election which he won, and put in place his New Deal policy. Cameroonians believed in him. Unfortunately, and it must be said, the attempted coup of April 1984 definitely affected the implementation of his New Deal policy. And nowadays, we have seen situations where a good proportion of Cameroonians are grumbling. They are not happy. And then we can cite to some areas, take the case of appointment of ministers, the appointment of general managers, the appointment of SDOs, the appointment of governors. You will realize that a vast majority of them come from one or two regions. And what of the other regions? This doesn't speak well as far as being a unifying factor is concerned. You might want to argue, but just be honest. Look at, as I've said, the ministers, the general managers, the SDOs, the governors, and then, of course, look at the National Assembly, how the members of Parliament, House of Assembly. There are some regions, because it is not according to population size, because there are some small regions with more than enough members of Parliament compared to other regions, if we have to take it into account the population size. So these are some of the points which I'm very, very sure the President himself must have heard, that some of his fellow Cameroonians are not happy, and something needs to be done as far as that aspect is concerned.
Professor Victor Julius Goy, historian based in Boya, Chief Town of the Southwest Region, thank you so much for your time. And that's it for this edition of the 6 p.m. primetime newscast on Equinoxe Television. Thank you, ladies and gentlemen, for your keen attention. Stay in the company of more interesting programs. Coming up next in some few minutes is Equinoxe Soir with Serge Alain Otto. Bye-bye for now. See you tomorrow, same time, God willing.